a question that often comes up that's related to a very large topic which is actually not discussed anywhere in Shas, of benefiting from someone else's effort. Let's say that you've got a shop on the high street and your shop has been there for many years. Because of the great name that your shop has, people come from all over town whenever they want to buy shoes, right? You have a shoe shop. Everyone who needs shoes, they all know that you've got a great shoe shop, and they all come to you. Now another guy comes along and opens up a shoe shop next door to you. And you come to him with tiners. Hang on a sec. Everyone that comes around here is coming because of me. They're coming to my shop. You're going to be taking away my business. You have to close up your shop. Is that a valid claim in Jewish monetary law or not? The Gemara in Masechet Baba Batra asks the question, are you allowed to open up a shop next to someone else's existing shop? Not necessarily in a case where they have a tremendous name and they're attracting large amounts of people to their store, but even where they're not. Just in a normal case where one of the shop owners says, there's not going to be enough business here for the two of us, or I'm not going to be making enough profit if you're here next door to me. The Gemara wants to bring a case to prove from this case as to whether there's a problem with opening up a shop next to someone else's shop or not. The Gemara tells us a case like this. Let's say you're going fishing. You're going fishing, you go down to the river, and when you get there, you see that there's already a fisherman there. The fisherman's been there all day, fishing away. When you come to fish, says the Gemara, you shouldn't stand next to him and fish right next to him, but you should move down the river. Find a piece of river for yourself, and there do your fishing. But don't come and fish next to him. Why? The first guy's been there all day long, and he's put a lot of bait in the water, and he's put a lot of effort into catching fish. And the fish are all gathering around him. And why are the fish gathering around him? Because of his effort. For you to come along and benefit from his effort is immoral, it would seem, from this piece of Gemara. Carries on the Gemara to say that this doesn't apply in every case. There's an argument amongst the different commentators as to what exactly is the case here where we're saying that the second guy can't come and fish next to the first guy. Some say that the case is talking about a case where the fish are not just gathering around the first fisherman, the fish are actually already inside his net. But his net is still inside the water. So he hasn't taken out his net to actually make any act of acquisition on those fish. The fish, of course, are ownerless, right? Fish that are in a river don't belong to anyone, as long as the river doesn't belong to someone, right? In a normal case, the fish don't belong to anyone, and we're talking about a case like that. So the first guy doesn't own any of the fish yet. Only when he takes the net out of the water will he make an act of acquisition on the fish that are inside the net. While the net is still in the water, the fish are not yet his. Nevertheless, we see that someone else shouldn't come along and take those fish out of his net. Another way of explaining the Gemara is that the case is talking about where there's one big fish that's got an underground cave over there. This first fisherman has been looking after this fish, looking out for this fish for a long time, and he's found out now where the fish's hole is, and he's put his bait just outside the hole. And it's just a matter of time until the fish comes out and takes his bait. Even though he hasn't yet caught the fish doesn't yet belong to him, nevertheless, seeing as it's 99.9% certain that this fisherman is going to catch the fish, it's just a question of waiting until the fish comes out and takes his bait. So for someone else to take that fish is not right, is considered as immoral. From here, the Gemara wants to say that, you see, let's compare this case to the case of a shop. I've opened up a shop on the high street, I'm selling shoes. Everyone is coming around here, all the fish are my clients, the customers. They're all coming around here because of me. Maybe they're coming around here because of my advertising campaign. Maybe I spent millions on advertising, and because of that, people are coming to my shop. And you now want to come and open up next door to me and take away those fish, those customers, which are already coming straight towards me. We see from here, from this piece of Gemara, that that's immoral, that that's not the right thing to do. Answers the Gemara, you can't bring a proof from the case of the fish to the case of a shop. There's a very big difference between customers buying from a shop and fish that are going to be caught by the fishermen. What's the difference? The difference is that the customers always have a choice to choose for themselves from which shop they're going to buy. They will come along, they'll see your shop and they'll see his shop, and let them decide. You can't decide for them. Human beings have understanding, they have the free will to make decisions for themselves. They will decide themselves from which shop they want to buy. The fish has much less of a choice. When he sees food, boom, he grabs it. He doesn't have a choice to sit and think, shall I take this or shall I take that? Do I want to eat this type of food today or shall I eat a different food today? He doesn't really make choices like that as far as we know. So the fish is almost caught, even though he hasn't yet been caught. He's definitely going to be caught by the fisherman. That's why the Khatam Sofer adds in here that for someone else to take away those fish, it's not just immoral. He says a tremendous chidush here. He says, someone that takes away those fish from the first fisherman is a thief, which is a tremendous chidush because the first guy doesn't yet own them. Nevertheless, says the Khatam Sofer, it's almost as if he owns them. It's almost he's about to catch them. Someone who takes that away from him is considered as a thief. In the case of the shop, the people decide for themselves from where they're going to buy their goods. And therefore, the conclusion of the Gemara and the halachic conclusion too of the question as to whether you're allowed to open up a shop next to an existing shop is that you are allowed to. And there's no problem of morality in doing that, unless what you're doing is something that is going to definitely close the first shop. If you're doing it, and certainly if you're doing it with that intention, to cause damage to the existing shop, then that's definitely immoral and not the right way for a nice Jewish boy to behave. But if you're not doing it for that purpose, then you wouldn't be considered as having acted immorally by doing so. It's interesting that we should say just that it's accepted today amongst economists that, on the contrary, having a large number of shoe shops, for example, in a particular area is good for everyone, because that means that the place becomes a place where everyone in the whole town that needs shoes knows that that's the place to go. There's 4 or 5 shops there to choose from. And having a large number of the same type of shop in one area can be good for everyone, right? But also it can certainly be damaging as well. And there are a lot of cases where people come with a claim that, why are you going to open up the same shop next to me? You're going to cause me damage. But let's take a specific situation and see if it's maybe comparable to the case of the fish. In most major towns, you have a central bus station. The central bus station is something that may have been built by the bus company, and they built it so that all the buses that are traveling from our town outwards, they all have a central place to be. Everyone that needs to travel knows that I'm going to go to the central bus station, and from there I'll get the buses that I need to wherever I'm traveling around the country. So this central bus station is like a large net that is attracting all the travelers. All the travelers are coming there. If someone is now standing in line in that central bus station to buy a ticket to take a bus to somewhere, and a driver comes along to them while they're standing in line and says, listen, leave them, come with me. I've got a car waiting outside. We're just leaving for your destination. Come with me, I'll take you for the same price. So now, maybe that situation is similar to the case of the fish, which the Khatam Sofer calls theft. That customer is in the net already of the bus company. He's just about to buy his ticket. Once he buys his ticket, there's a few guys in front of him in line. As soon as he buys his ticket, he's caught. He's been caught by the bus company. He's going to travel with them without any doubt. So for you to come along and take him away, that maybe is similar to taking the fish out of the net of the fisherman, where the fisherman hasn't yet taken the net out of the water. And that would be, even if it wouldn't necessarily be considered as theft, as the Khatam Sofer said, is the case of a case that's similar to the fish, but it would certainly be considered as having acted immorally. Because here the customer has given up on the option of having any more choice. Once he's already there in line, as he's already given up on choosing, so he's not choosing anymore. So here, even though, as we said, the difference between humans and fishes, that humans have the choice, they can always change their mind. Here it looks like this guy has really been caught by the bus company. The same thing would apply if, in the case of our two shoe shops, if the second shoe shop, instead of putting his shop passively outside and allowing people to choose into which shop they wish to go into, he comes into the other first guy's shop. People in the first guy's shop are standing in line after they've already chosen their shoes, and he comes into the shop and he persuades them to buy those same shoes from him or to buy other shoes from him. That also, says the Khatam Sofer, would be similar to the case of the fish and would be immorally wrong. It would maybe be even considered as theft for the second guy to come into the shop of the first guy and do that. Now, even though I said that opening up a shop next to someone else's shop is allowed, I made a condition that you're not doing it intentionally to close up the other guy's shop. But it's interesting that the Bet Yosef brings a case of a dead-end road, a road with a dead end, where at the end of the road there's a shop owner. Because it's a dead-end road, it's a road there's no other way in apart from one way in. If someone else were to open up a shop at the entrance to that dead-end road, right? Our guy Yossi has got his shop at the end of the dead-end road, and another guy comes and opens up his shop at the entrance to that dead-end road. So now he's closed down the first guy completely. No one is going to get to the first guy's shop. The Beit Yosef says that even in such a case, it's permitted for the second guy to open up his shop at the entrance to that dead-end road, even though here it looks like he is really going to shut down the first guy's shop. But nevertheless, it's interesting that we see in the poskim over the generations that they paskened, in many cases, the halakha, like this case, it's called the case of the Biasaf, that where the second guy is going to open up his shop in such a situation that it's going to close the first guy got no real chance of doing good competition with him, then we wouldn't allow the second guy to open up his shop. But I have to qualify this. What about where the second guy that's opening up is a large chain of supermarkets that is going to be selling things cheaply at prices which the original shop can't compete with, but you're right, he's going to close down the first shop. There's not going to be room for the small little grocery store that we've all been buying from for the past 50, 60 years. But what about the good of the consumer? That we're going to, if we allow the supermarket to come to town, you're right, he's going to close down the first shop. The little grocery store won't be able to compete with him. But it's good for the consumers. So what comes first in the halacha? Do the consumers come first, or does this guy come first? The halacha is, the Ramah says, that where the second guy is going to come and put down prices, cut prices, zachor tov, then he's doing a good thing, because he's doing something that's good for the community. And therefore, even though there might be a loss, there might be a clear loss to the previous shop owner, nevertheless, the supermarket is allowed to come, and they can't be shut down and not allowed to open with the claim that they're going to cause damage to the first shop owner. Wherever it's possible in such cases, there are many cases you can imagine in many small communities where there's just not enough people for there to be more than one kosher grocery store. Yeah? It happens in a number of places. And then a second one wants to come and open up. So what do? So we always try, the Botei Dinim always try in such cases to make sure that the first shop, which is going to be suffering from the second shop, is nevertheless, there's going to be some employment for the previous, for the grocery store owner, the original grocery store owner. Even if it's going to be, sometimes there can be competition. Sometimes there can certainly, any economist can tell you, that a small shop can sometimes, if he specializes and does special service and does things in a special way, he can compete with the large store. But nevertheless, Beit Din always would try and make a compromise in such a situation that the employment and the parnosa of the first shop owner wouldn't be harmed. This whole subject of one person benefiting from someone else's effort is a very, very large topic. It comes up in many, many different situations. Let me just mention another one to you, and with that we'll finish off the shiur for today, of a case of someone who's got a job and he's happy in his job, and you are now opening up your own company, and you think this guy is exactly who you need for your company. Are you allowed to take him away from his previous employer? Are you allowed to go to him and say, listen, I want you to come and work for me? Here, in a way too, you're taking away this worker from the place where he's, if you like, been caught in the net already of his employer. His employer is employing him. He's already there. He's already working there. And now you're coming to take him away. He could have been trained by the first employer. And the first employer might have put a lot of effort into training this guy and getting him good at his job. And now you want to come and take him away and have him work for you. So is that too considered as immoral? Chazal said, Li b'nei Yisrael avadim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that the Jewish people are slaves to me and not slaves to each other. From here we learn that any employee can quit whenever he needs to quit. He shouldn't be working, no employee should be working in a situation where he's considered like a slave to his employer, that he can't leave. And that's one of the cardinal principles of freedom, that you can just get up and go whenever you need to get up and go, whenever you want to get up and go. So any worker can leave whenever he likes. If he's got a contract, there's problems. If he's bound himself in a contract, he has to keep the conditions of his contract. But generally, a worker can get up and leave whenever he needs to leave. Sometimes there can be financial consequences to that. If he leaves in the middle of a job that needs to be finished, right? There are certainly financial consequences. But a worker generally can get up and leave whenever he needs to leave. So does that mean that you're allowed to poach a worker? The Shulchan Aruch says you are. He's allowed to choose for himself who he wants to work for. You can offer him the job. You can say, listen, I want you to come and work for me. And that is not considered as acting immorally. But, says the Shulchan Aruch, what about if the opposite situation arises? What about if the situation arises where an employee is already in a particular job, but you want that job? You think that that job is exactly the job for you. You're qualified and you're trained, and you want to get that job for yourself. Are you allowed to aggressively approach the employer and tell him, listen, throw him out and take me in his place. I'm much better than he is, and I'll prove it to you. Are you allowed to do that, or is that considered as acting immorally? Says the Shulchan Aruch, that you're not allowed to do. That you're not allowed to do. The employer is already working for this person. The employee here has got the employer in his net. And it's not right for you to come and take the employer away from him. Now, you could always tell me, but hang on, let the employer decide for himself. As if I, as a prospective employee, am sending my CV, I'm sending my prospectus to an employer, then there's certainly no problem with that. And let him decide for himself. I can even approach him passively and tell him the advantages of employing me. But we're talking about aggressively pushing the other guy out. Let's say if the manager is your uncle. And so you're going to go there and you're going to say, listen, Uncle Joe, throw him out. I've just qualified as an accountant, and take me in his place. That, says the Shulchan Aruch, you're not allowed to do. The aggressive approach to throw him out and take me, you're not allowed to do. That's similar maybe to the case of the fish, that you're taking the fish, which in this case is the employer, out of the net of the employee. So B'ezrat Hashem, we see from these cases, these few cases that we've discussed, there's much more to talk about, that in these cases of different situations that can arise in our everyday lives, in everyday business life, or even the life at home, and even the life of a housewife, which are all connected to Jewish business ethics. Thank you.